This is the West Kent Radio News feature. Hello, I'm Martin Webber. The constituency of Tonbridge has 7 candidates for voters to choose from. One of those candidates is from the Green Party, and she's Anna Cope, and she's with me now. Hello, Anna.
Hello.
So, what skills do you have that would make you a good MP for the town?
I think one of my great strengths is how embedded I am in the community. I've been elected onto the Borough Council twice. I work as a teacher in a secondary school in Tonbridge. My children are at school here. And it gives me a real insight, not only into how young people are experiencing the town, but all the people I've represented while on the Borough Council. And I think being part of the community with children in sports clubs or having been in the Brownies, it's given me a real sense of what people in Tonbridge want and what they need. And I think I would be a positive change and positive hope for making the area better. Tonbridge is an amazing place to live, but I know that not everybody at the moment has the best life that they could. And I think my energy and my enthusiasm for making those changes would really qualify me to represent the people in this constituency.
So the constituency has changed its boundaries a bit. Currently it's a Conservative seat. Tom Tugendhat's there. The Liberal Democrats are also quite strong in the Borough Council, as are the Greens. So what do you think your chances are of winning?
I think there's a real green momentum in Tonbridge and the surrounding villages. If you look at voting patterns, there has been a massive momentum and a change towards supporting the Green Party. In 2019, in this constituency, there were no Green councillors, and we now actually have 11, stretching from Tonbridge itself all the way up to New Ash Green, which is a real heartland for the Greens. So although we're not traditionally seen as the opposition party, in terms of local voting patterns, actually we would see ourselves as the opposition to the Conservatives because so many people have actually started voting Green.
So why is it you're interested in politics? Why is it that you're joining and being a candidate for the Green Party?
I passionately believe in policies that are working towards a fairer, greener planet. Everything that the Green Party does puts people and the planet at the heart of their policies. And I think ensuring that the most vulnerable in society are taken care of is something that I feel really, really passionate and strongly about. As a teacher, I've seen child poverty rocket in schools. So nearly 5 million children are living in what we refer to as relative poverty at the moment. And the Green Party are the party coming out saying what they want to do about that, which is to abolish the 2-child cap on benefits, which is being seen by most experts.
On child benefit?
Yeah, on child benefit, and actually universal credit as well. It's the easiest and most straightforward way to lift millions of children out of poverty. And lots of our policies also look at protecting the most vulnerable in society. So at the moment, nearly 5 million people are working as unpaid carers in the UK. Many of those are children. That has a massive impact on their education and their mental health. We want to prioritise looking after the most vulnerable, and that's something that really, really sings to me, which is why I want to represent the Green Party.
One of the local Conservative candidates has called the record of the Conservative Party on the environment and cutting carbon emissions. He called it deeply impressive. Do you call it impressive?
Those are not the words that I would use. I think if you want green, vote green. We are absolutely committed to some of the most ambitious environmental policies, including renationalising the water companies. We know that privatisation has failed. The water companies have an obligation and a loyalty to their shareholders not to supplying clean, unpolluted water. So the Green Party are bold enough to say that actually that needs to change. We need to renationalise the water supply. We also have put the planet at the heart of what we're doing. We know that farmers, for instance, in this very rural area in Tonbridge, really want to care for the environment and not being supported to do so. And Green Party policies are looking at actually how can we ensure that farmers can produce the food that the country needs while taking care of wildlife and our ecosystems. And we have committed to ensuring that everybody has a right to clean air, which has a massive impact on childhood health and for elderly people as well. We see that as a human right. So I would say if you want green policies, you need to look to the Green Party.
There may be voters out there who perhaps voted Conservative before who are thinking about voting Green, but are rather worried about the size of the borrowing and the spending the Green Party is proposing. You're looking to add £250 billion a year to public spending, which is currently about £1 trillion. So it's a huge increase in public spending. There's £90 billion a year of extra borrowing. Well, we saw how a couple of extra billion of borrowing under Liz Truss caused panic in the financial markets. Aren't you putting off some voters by just being too radical?
I think what we're being is honest, and actually people we've spoken to on the doorsteps have admired that honesty. We are openly saying that we cannot invest in public services in the short term or the long term unless the money comes from somewhere. And we are very openly saying that those with the broadest financial shoulders need to just carry a little bit more of the burden. Our proposals would affect fewer than 1% of people in terms of increasing their tax burden. We're looking at taxing 1% on people with assets of £10 million or over. I've not encountered anyone yet while I've been out canvassing or working as a councillor that will actually impact on.
But you're also putting up national insurance contributions, aren't you? People who currently up above a certain level don't pay a very high percentage of national insurance contributions. I think they currently pay 3% over a certain level of income. That is bringing in, obviously quite well off people, but far more than just 1%.
Yes, that's true, but we are looking at earners over £50,000 and it is fewer than £300 a year. And doing that is actually going to support more people. So, for instance, we're looking at helping small and medium businesses be able to raise the national minimum wage to £15 an hour for everyone. Everyone who does a job will be paid the same. So we are not looking at radically increasing taxes for the majority of people. We're just asking people who are earning more than others to pay a slight increase in order that we can fund the public services we need. And actually, we think that that's an investment rather than asking people to do it for nothing. The majority of people work, have children who use the education system or who might want to use public transport or who use the NHS. So we're just asking for a little bit extra from slightly higher earners and a small increase for those who are extremely wealthy, just to fund what the country needs. And I don't think it's alarming to people. I think actually the majority of people I've spoken to are pleased to see honesty. It's very difficult when Labour and the Conservatives are talking about what they want to do without really talking about how that's going to be funded. And I think,
but you're talking about a carbon tax, and many economists think that that's a very sensible thing to do. You tax the thing you don't want, which is more carbon emissions. But that is going to have an impact on ordinary people, isn't it? If there's more carbon tax, it'll cause airline flights costs to go up. It'll maybe cause the cost of driving to go up. Are you really being transparent?
Yeah, I think we are, in that we are talking about who we are taxing. So, for instance, we're talking about frequent business flyers. We're not talking about a family holiday to Spain once a year. We're talking about...
So what do you do with the cost of that?
Sorry, the cost of which one?
The family holiday to Spain. Would the cost of flying those tickets, would that go up?
That would be a cost that the airlines would need to look at, and I can't talk for the airlines, but what I would say is that everything we do in terms of transport and decarbonisation is to create an active travel network. The majority of people I speak to in Tonbridge are more interested in whether their children can cycle or walk safely to school, whether their mother or father can have access to shops by having a bus service that goes where it wants to. So for the Green Party, what we are really looking for is sustainable, accessible, affordable travel. So for instance, we would make sure that all bus journeys for under 18s were free, and that would actually have far more of an impact on people's day-to-day lives than those who are thinking about short business haul flights. Those are the flights that we're trying to cut down on.
But you would, in order to curtail the growing demand for air travel, which obviously is very damaging in carbon terms, you would have to increase the cost of flights, wouldn't you?
I think some flights would increase, but it's not looking to be prohibitive for people taking the annual holiday. It's looking for flights that could be done by train. It's looking for frequent flyers who are taking lots and lots of short haul flights. Those are our priorities.
So you're talking about taxing the super rich more, But we do know that the top 5% of taxpayers already pay 48% of income tax. Isn't the real risk that you actually end up with less revenue with all these tax hikes because people just move their assets to other places or even move themselves out of the country?
I think that's a very knee-jerk reaction to the issue. We know that lots of people who have assets of £10 million or more are actually very embedded in the country. It's not as simple as packing up an overnight bag and moving out of the country, and that actually we are an optimistic party looking for real hope and real change, and that we believe that the majority of people who live in this country want to be here, understand the sense in these policies, and it's not something that's going to be prohibitive or cause them to leave.
And some people do have assets, but no actual income. I mean, you think of maybe more elderly people with very limited income, but maybe own property. In the past, wealth taxes have been avoided in most countries. France has got rid of them, it's returned, but we haven't had them in this country because they're so difficult to measure assets, and then many people just don't have the ready income to pay those sort of taxes. So are you sure that an asset-based wealth tax is the right answer and not just more taxes on spending or income?
I think what we're looking at is 14 years of doing things in exactly the same way and the country getting worse and worse. What the Green Party are is a fresh start, looking at things differently and being innovative. And I know looking historically, people might say that doesn't work, but actually what we're doing at the moment isn't working either. We have more and more children falling into poverty. Our public services are vastly underfunded, and we want to try something new. We believe that this will work, and this is the fairest way to do it.
And do you have independent experts like the Institute for Fiscal Studies and others saying that your tax plans add up?
I know that the BBC have verified the figures, so I feel very confident in that.
One reason that some people blame for the fact that infrastructure is overstretched, that we can't find doctors or dentists easily, is the high levels of immigration into the country. Seen another 5 million people added to the population in the past 10 years. What would you do about immigration?
I think at the moment immigration is being used as a dog whistle almost to demonise certain sections of the population. For instance, if you're going to the NHS, you're more likely to see an immigrant treating you in the NHS than being in front of you in the queue. We've got a hostile environment towards immigration in this country a lot of the time. I was really interested that Toby Jones, the actor, was talking last week that we talk about boats coming here and not people or children or young people or mothers or fathers. If you ask people, do they want more immigration? Generally, they will say no. But if you ask, are you happy for more doctors to come to this country? Are you more happy for more healthcare workers?
So it's the right sort of immigration, isn't it? It's the people that we need, but we can't accept everybody who wants to come here because there's about 1 billion people around the world who probably have a standard of living lower than us that might want to come here.
And that's where some of the other Green Party policies really come into play. We see ourselves as part of a global network. A lot of the policy positions that the government have taken in the last few years have created situations that people want to leave their countries. We believe by having a more optimistic but also compassionate look about what is happening beyond our borders and helping people there is going to make an impact as well. But I would like to say that I do think we have so many immigrants that have come to this country who built the NHS for us, who teach in our schools, who drive our bin lorries.
But that's not the same as, that's history, isn't it? Now the question is, what level of immigration do you think is a sensible amount for the country to accommodate? What would it be?
I don't have a figure on that, but what I would say is that demonising desperate people and allowing young people who've come here as unaccompanied minors to disappear into the country and have no idea where they are, suspecting they're being exploited or certainly not living happy, fulfilled lives, suggests that we do need to do something about how we are treating refugees and immigration.
So how would you stop them coming here? I mean, we can't do anything about a lot of the countries that they're coming from. How would you stop them making this horrific crossing?
The Green Party would like to look at opening up channels that have give people legal rights to enter the country. So we would know who is coming into the country and when and where.
And would you allow economic migrants in or only political refugees?
It would depend on the circumstance. So, for instance, we would be more interested in making sure we know who has come to the country, allowing them to be economically active while their claims are being scrutinised, rather than sort of sidelining them and making them poor or making sure that they don't have access to any services. So some of the most vulnerable women and children, for instance, are at risk of exploitation. We would like there to be legal channels properly funded so that we can actually keep track of who is coming, what their claims are, and then what needs to be done about it.
On the European Union, the Green Party was in favour originally of a referendum for the nation to make up its mind. A decision was made. Are you now calling for another referendum? What's your policy?
We're not calling for another referendum, but I think we can all agree that saying having got Brexit done, it has not been the wild success that those campaigning for Brexit have claimed. It's like suggesting, there's no more washing up left because we've smashed all the plates. We really do need to be thinking about the huge economic impact that Brexit has had. And I think that looking for a customs union, we can't turn back the clock.
So would you rejoin the single market, which also allows, of course, free movement of people from all countries in Europe to the UK?
At the moment, I would not say that is a short-term priority for the Green Party, but what we are looking for is how we can actually re-strengthen our ties to Europe, because at the moment, for the majority of people, it has actually made their lives worse in terms of holidays. It's made their small businesses are really struggling in terms of import duty, and actually that would be a priority for the people who've been misled about what they thought Brexit would actually mean to them, how we can support them better.
What about transport? The railways, it's a big issue for people in Tonbridge, very high rail fares. Would you do anything about that?
Yes, we would like to renationalise the railways. It's another instance where privatisation has failed. The service is not as frequent as people would like it to be. It can be prohibitively expensive. What we would like is it to be owned again back into public ownership, so that any profits that are made are reinvested back into the service.
What about Gatwick Airport? We've heard a few planes overhead while we've been talking. Would you allow them to have a new runway that would enable them to double the number of flights?
Absolutely not. I've spoken to people in Chiddingstone and Tonbridge whose lives are already negatively impacted by Gatwick. I think that anything that is increasing carbon emissions, increasing flights, air pollution, noise pollution is absolutely the wrong decision. What we should be doing is investing in the infrastructure for active travel so people can walk, so they can cycle. As I said, renationalising the railways so they are actually able to afford journeys, free bus travel for under 18s, and actually just making those our priorities. We shouldn't be encouraging more air traffic.
Would you build new houses on the Green Belt?
No, we would not. We need to build the right houses in the right place, but the green belt needs to be preserved.
But many people have done the calculations, and they say if we're going to have, as Labour is promising, 1 million new homes every year, and people want to live in the southeast, there's just not enough land, previously developed land, so-called brownfield land.
You need to ask Labour about their figures. That's not for me to speak about. We at the Green Party have committed to building 150,000 new homes or residences, but that doesn't involve building on the green belt. So for instance, we want to look at compulsory repurchase of unoccupied buildings. We would like there to be development in places where there is brownfield, but we also are really interested in making sure that current homes are fit for purpose, because there are homes that currently people don't want to live in. They are so drafty, they're so energy inefficient that actually they're almost uninhabitable. The cost of living in them would be so prohibitive that they've almost fallen out of the housing market. So one of our strategies would be to retrofit houses that are currently existing to actually make them insulated and fit for people to live in. I do not want ever to see the green belt being built on.
On net zero, you want a more ambitious target than the government. I mean, how are you going to achieve that when most people still drive around in petrol or diesel cars and they still have homes fuelled with gas?
One of the key things is cutting down energy consumption in people's homes. At the moment, there are lots of people who would love their house to be more energy efficient, who passionately care about the environment, but simply haven't got the means to make that happen. We would look at funding those changes so people's homes are more energy efficient. We want to discourage people using their cars, but that's not to say if we get elected we're going to go around and confiscate everyone's car keys. What we want to do is invest in a transport network that actually gets people to where they need to go in a more carbon efficient way. And there are lots of other small changes. So for instance, lots of small businesses really do want to do the right thing by the environment, but find it prohibitively expensive. So we'd look at ensuring there are grants available for businesses that want to make those changes too.
What about the voting age?
16. We believe that if you're able to work, pay tax, national insurance, then you should have a say in how the country is being run. We want people and the planet at the heart of everything we do. And I know from being a teacher how innovative, insightful, passionate young people are. 16 seems a very reasonable age to allow them to partake in democracy. I think at the moment, many of the major parties moan that not enough young people are voting without actually really giving them anything they want to vote for or recognising that they want to vote. And so we would like 16 plus to vote, and lots of our policies are actually looking at how we can invest in the future, which I know is something that young people are obviously very interested in.
There aren't that many countries around the world, though, that give the vote to people aged 16 because they think that maybe they haven't got their heads around the world yet.
I think from working in a school and spending my days with 16, 17 and 18-year-olds, I'd like to invite some of those leaders to talk to the young people I spend my time with, and I know that would change their mind. I think at the moment we do young people a bit of a disservice in this country. We pay them a lower minimum wage, which is something that the Green Party would change. We are not investing in their educations. We are charging them a lot to go to university that is putting off some young people from lower income families. Again, that's something that the Green Party would like to change. We feel that young people are passionate and interesting and intelligent, and we should be inviting them to the table to get involved in the decisions that ultimately are going to affect them for the rest of their lives.
The Labour Party wants to add a 20% tax on school fees for parents who send their children to private school. Would you do that?
It is not our policy, no.
So you would leave private schools as charitable status?
I think that there are some incredibly rich private schools, which is what everyone pictures when you talk about this. I don't think it necessarily speaks to people's lived experiences. I know that the current education system is really disadvantaging, for instance, SEN students. And I know some of their parents feel desperately that they're not going to thrive in an overcrowded classroom where, for instance, the Senko is part-time or they don't have access to a TA. So I think rather than fixate on private schools, actually what in the Green Party we're more interested in is making education better funded to prioritise, for instance, SEN students who are neurodiverse, who really can struggle in the classroom, and actually making education better with the aim that we can offer something to everybody rather than fixating on a few extremely wealthy private schools that aren't really touching the majority of people's lives. The majority of parents who are choosing private schools are choosing much smaller, sort of hand-to-mouth almost institutions. But what we would like is the education system to be better so they don't feel that they're having to make those choices.
Finally, Anna, could you just sum up for us why you think voters in Tonbridge should choose Anna Cope Green at the general election?
They should vote for the Green Party at the general election because we stand for real hope and real change. We are putting people and the planet at the centre of everything we do. I am a representative of this community on the local council. I am someone who knows what it is like to live in Tonbridge, and I think that I would do a good job at representing their views.
Anna Cope, thank you very much.